So here we are with our amazing guests for the Bridge event, which is a collaboration between Cables and Cameras and Chapter Movie Maker in Cardiff. So the event is a cross collaboration between creatives, black and brown creatives in particular, filmmakers from Wales, Bristol, Birmingham and London. This is the first crossover between three regions and the opportunity to explore and build bridges, to unify talent and projects into a productive and powerful creative media movement. Building connections and partnerships, hopefully. This, we believe, is the only way forward for people of colour creatives. So without further ado, let's introduce our guests. I was going to do like, I think quickest and best way would be to just roll through the gallery and just introduce yourselves. Tell us, give us the titles of your films or the projects that you're working on, and just a brief overview of what you do. And then we'll get straight into the questions. Who wants to take the lead?
I can go. I love going first. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'm just like, I always like to try and get my talking in first, and then I can relax, you know? So cool. Sorry. So my name's Josephine Gyasi. The film that I'm presenting to you today is called What Are Your Plans? And I'm a creative producer, associate lecturer, events producer, programmer, busybody, creative person. And I'm happy to be here.
My name is Onismo, as it says somewhere on the Zoom, somewhere there. Onismo Muhlanga. I'm Zimbabwean. Born in Zimbabwe, living in Wales for almost 20 years now. But I just pride myself as a creative, as broad as that may seem to others. I always love creating, always try and find ways to create. Even when there's certain emotions that are coming through, I try to channel them into some sort of expressive art. And I'm a support youth worker. So saying to the team, I pride myself, or one of my core values is allowing art to be transcended into young people and allowing them to have it as an expressive art form too. And to find ways of finding, whether it's careers or finding ways, like I just said, to express themselves through art. And as being an all-round creative, whether I've directed or whether I've done certain designs or whether I've curated, it all kind of feels like the same thing to me. That's why it's always very difficult to categorize what I am. Mm-hmm. So creative would be, the best thing I can probably say.
I'm T Visualz. I'm from Birmingham. I'm a full-time director, DOP. And my film, well, my teaser is Versus Them.
Cool. I've met Josie before and I've met T before. It's the first time I've met Onismo, so I'm really looking forward to asking you these questions. And what I've really enjoyed on the build-up to researching what you guys are about and watching the content is that there are all these brilliant thematics that link your work together as well, which I think is really, really, really nice. And just before the recording started, we were talking about some of those links, and hopefully we'll unpack some of that stuff as it unfolds. So I think, let's just jump straight in with the questions. So first question is for Josie. So Josie, hey. I'm making an assumption, but it feels to me, researching your background, that you're very much a multidisciplinary creative, multidisciplinary artist. And in regards to the film, how and when did spoken word begin for you? I mean, what's your sort of, how was your passion for spoken word kick-started?
Okay, my passion for spoken word. So just first and foremost, and this sounds, I've been doing a few interviews since I released this piece, and I'm still adamant to like not call myself a spoken word artist. I know I am technically, but just like what Onismo was saying earlier, like, when you have like a creative practice and you have all of these roles, but they kind of all shape into each other. And for me, it's all part of creative expression.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, but to answer that question, I guess passion and anger. I'm a big talker, and essentially, like, I'm quite performative, as you can tell. I'm using all my hands and my body on this little rectangle that we have. And I think it's linked in with the piece that I wrote. I kind of knew my creative vision to release this piece, and to, well, we'll move on to it later, to kind of speak it out, was to create an impact, like an actual, more of an impact than just text on a screen or a page or in my book at home. So if that kind of answers your question,
it does. It leads into the second question, and we were kind of talking about that before we started as well, because in my typically overly wordy way, I mean, I wrote it for my own brain, because when we're talking as creatives about what we do and how we do what we do, it's quite difficult to kind of unpack or untangle how we ended up doing what we're doing, if you know what I mean, how we got to where we are. So I mean, the second question was just to sort of to kind of to sort of sit side by side with that first question, and I think you answered it beautifully by saying, like, you know, yeah, poetry is just one element of my creative being. So with that in mind, Josie, how does film fit into that? When was the sort of first time, I mean, like, that can split into kind of two smaller questions, which are maybe the first film that really kind of blew you away, and then secondly, I think the first moment where film as a discipline or platform of creativity becomes a way that you can you know, tell your stories in a different kind of way.
Okay, so the first question, oh god, the first film that blew me away, that's a tricky one, because I had, we'll just say, a limited upbringing. So I wasn't introduced and blessed with art and that world until quite later on in my life. So the stuff that I was introduced to when I was younger was quite old stuff. So like I used to watch like Gone with the Wind and that kind of stuff. But I think, and I don't know if this is related, but I've always been drawn to like really dramatic, adventurous, performative films or pieces. The Mask is 100% hands down one of my favorite films in the entire world. If any of you don't agree here, then we need to talk.
No, I agree. I think it's Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I think he's an incredible performer and talent, and I also like the fact that where he's at now, again, you know, he's exploring different artistic disciplines. So I've been really enjoying watching him tweak his paintings, and I like the fact that he uses his platform to kind of be critical about the world around us. So for me, I'm thinking like, oh, there's a connection.
Yeah, for sure. And like
Jim Carrey's energy and
totally, like, and I think if what coming from that, like other films like The Labyrinth, starring David Bowie, like just really dramatic theatrical films, like, you know, they was kind of what I'd, you know, get into, and just dance in front of the TV and stuff like that. And to be totally honest with you, I haven't like I've never been really into film like that. Again, like I say, I'm just gonna say limited childhood. But leading on to the second question, being inspired by the creatives that I have around me was certainly what kind of triggered or opened my mind to thinking, oh wow, I have this idea, I have this talent, I've got this thing here, and I've got like a pool of amazing, I've said this so many times, like amazing creatives around me. And like I feel like I know myself, and it's like I could learn how to make films, of course, you know, I could, but I know that I have very talented friends that can do that for me. I'm a visionary. I think I'm a visionary. So I feel like I'm super aware that I can create a vision with the resources and the people that I have around me. And in relation to like the actual piece and the support that I got from that piece and the people that I had around me at that time, it just felt so natural to kind of follow from the Billboard campaign, which is, again, we'll probably talk about later, to documenting and archiving it through a film. And the person who I worked with was part of that whole, you know, time in my life, and it all just happened so naturally. So yeah,
I'm really happy that you've shared that particular route into film with us, because I don't think you necessarily have to be like a big time cinephile, or the beauty of, I think, the creative side of the moving image is that anyone can engage with it. There's so many different ways to tell a story.
And I think as well, same with writing, there's so many barriers put up, and there's such a, you know, it can be so easy to feel like you're out of your depth, or you're an imposter. Like, even more so for me, like having this being my first film and then suddenly being introduced or invited to talk about it, I'm like, oh, I don't know, like half the time, do you know what I mean? But I hope that I can kind of inspire people to, you know, you don't have to know all the theory, you don't have to have studied film since you were a baby. Like, you can still be just as inspired through your passion and your resources and creativity and just what inspires you. So yeah,
absolutely. And I agree with that 110%. Really do, Josie. I'm glad that you've so eloquently, you know, planted your flag in the ground, because it's really important. And I think this also connects everyone together through the educative side of it as well, which is what I love about the filmmaking process. Is it doesn't matter what stage you're at or where you're at in relation to film production, you're constantly learning, and you're constantly having to adapt. And I know T will have some interesting things to say about that in a moment as well. And I think that's also part of the appeal to filmmakers, is that it is this kind of like constant, you know, it's this constant challenge, which is about growth and sharing, and, you know, building things, both, you know, ideas start in our mind and then they become something literal. And I think that's the great joy of filmmaking. So this leads me on to Onismo, and asking Onismo about the two films that he has, which are a part of the bridge. So Onismo, can we talk about Elastic Seed Cycle first? So the first thing I thought about this was, it felt to me it's very experimental. There's a lot of stuff to interpret, and it's like a really succinct 1 minute reel, you know, short. First off, what was the editing process like? And what was the kind of what was the motivation behind that narrative style? Because there's so much in there about cycle of life, creativity, meaning of life, elemental ideas around nature. You know, can you take us through like your process and some of the themes and ideas in that short? Because it's a really like visceral 1 minute.
Yeah, it's a journey. That's the first thing I can say within that 1 minute, because that's one of the hardest things to do, even though it can be one of the easiest, is to kind of constrain an idea into a pyramid, or into that 1 minute. That 1 minute is like a pyramid to me. So it was the journey of a process of our life, of discovering, like Josie was just saying, she knows who she is, discovering who we are, discovering what we are, and all the things that are around us that make us who we are as well. So that was kind of the idea behind, one of the core ideas behind it, is finding a way to provoke that thought, provoke the thought of being appreciative and being aware of everything that's around us and everything that makes us who we are, and then finding a way then to be able to channel that, not to kind of your advantage, but towards more benefits in terms of your growth. Hoping that makes sense as well.
Yeah,
and
because it feels like there's a lot within the rhythm of the edit and the imagery, and dialogue, sound bites. There's a lot around like the cyclical nature of life.
Because that's what tends to, that's why I call it cycle. It started off as seed, because I was reading up about like seed, like the word seed, how you reap what you sow in the seed, and I was like, ooh. And I spent about a week. I was going back and forth with my friend as well, and even Luke, because whenever I get ideas and whenever I get thoughts, I ask certain people around me what provokes in their mind as well. Like when I say the word seed, what comes into your mind? So that's where it kind of started. And then when I was diving into that the word itself, seed, I started looking at cycle, because we all come from a seed. The full cycle, we come from a seed all the way down to start the process again, ending up in a position where we transform back into a seed. And it's that beautiful cycle of so-called life, or the beautiful cycle of art, so to speak. So yeah, diving into that allowed me then to begin the process of this kind of piece. And oddly enough, this piece started, I'd say probably like 3-4 years ago. I wasn't there as of yet in terms of being able to actually call it a piece and being able to start the editing process. But in terms of the documentation and the footage in there, yeah, I think the oldest in there is going to be, I think it's 4 years old. I definitely see 4. It might be a little bit older, but the oldest footage in there is 4 years old. So it started a very long time ago. But the reason I was using it was because it was just slotting in. And like you asked about the editing process as well, it was, as soon as I began, because I tap into something amazingly. It might be the same for you guys. When after 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I switch on. I switch on. It's time to go. It's time to just channel and channel and channel. So that's exactly what started happening as soon as I began the process. I just started channeling the ideas that I've had for the last couple of years and the footage that I've had, which I've had in my archive, where I shot it, put it in my hard drive, shot it, chuck it in the hard drive.
So Onismo, there's half a decade in that, what condensed into that 1 minute.
Exactly. Which and like you were describing as well, with that visceral feeling, I was looking for that for myself, where every single frame has its own meaning, every single frame has its own life within it, where you can extract every single frame of that 1 minute and you'd be able to tell a story. But in that story, you're still going to hear the word seed and you're still going to hear the word cycle.
Yeah, I mean the film is like a seed. It's a small, condensed. It's condensed within the rigid time of a minute.
Yeah.
But you've been able to, all of that growth. Half a decade of visual experiences and traveling condensed into that seed reel. It's really cool. I loved it. It's got a lot of the things I like about experimental filmmaking in it. You're welcome. I loved it. Can we move on to Paradise Inquest? So this, man, I really like this, and I shared it. Josie, do you know Sean Sobers, Dr. Sobers?
I do indeed, very well.
So he's like a friend and mentor of ours in Bristol, and I showed a couple of stills from Paradise Inquest to Professor Sobers. It was just like, this is wicked. I really like this. And he's like, yeah, ping me over a link to your Vimeo. So maybe there's an opportunity for you guys to talk at some point. But I really liked Paradise Inquest a lot. So it's shot in Newport.
Yep.
One
night. All in one night.
Now that was one of the questions. It's like, how long did it take to shoot spoken word location shoot? So my question is always in these sort of moments is sort of what equipment did you use? How are you traveling? Because I think shoots like that, you've got travel light. You're thinking about technically what equipment that you can work with? That's going to be a question for T in a bit as well, because I know that he's also, these are his considerations when he's working on certain projects as well. But like, my question is, so Luke is the poet.
Yes, poet, and say co-writer, because that poem just allows me to.
So clearly a collaboration between the two of you, and it does feel that it flows that way. And I wanted to ask you about the mural. I mean, was that there? Who was the artist for that, or
that? You know, that was the starting. That was the seed. that was the starting point of this film. Was the mural, which Kane Conakry did. Somebody I've known for a very, very long time. And exactly, this is why I was just nodding all the way when you were talking, Josie, because the things that you were talking about is literally the reason I am who I am, the people that are around me and things like that, having that collaborative aspect and being free to collaborate with them as well. So Kane he was struggling. He was actually struggling with this mural. He had it for a couple of weeks and he was just like, I don't know. And that perfectionist, like, it's dreadful. It's dead. He's like, no, I can't do this. I'm like, let me see it. Send it over. As soon as I saw it, I was like, we're doing it. I don't want to hear nothing else. We're doing it. We're going to paint it, and I want to create a film around this. Let's create something around it. So that's where the kind of the mural come from as well. And through that, as we were during the night, as we were creating the film, we added a few parts to the mural that were going to be part of the film at the same time. So once again, that collaboration, because it's not like, I'd never even call it my film. It'd be great. It's like any piece of work that I do, it's not mine. It's far from mine. It's always ours, the team, because we work together towards that vision. So that's where kind of the mural ended up coming from. And
I'm thinking about some of the themes in the piece. And so did you shoot this? Was it pre-pandemic or in the lockdown?
In the lockdown, because it
Or
was
one of the lockdowns.
Yeah, in one of the everlasting lockdowns. Yes, it was. I'm trying to think whether was it November time. It was around Windrush Festival. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because these are the things that struck me about the film Onismo, which is obviously what we're all collectively going through right now. And then another thing that connects all of us in this virtual space, the experiences that have happened to us and our friends and family, pre and post Black Lives Matter, the pandemic and the lockdown and how that's affected all of us in radically different ways. And then also the themes that kind of come out of the shot construction, the poetry, the mural, which also tie into that feeling of lockdown and the stresses around pandemic, which for me were obviously, city life. And it felt as if there's like a bit of the shadow of Grenfell and Windrush. I don't know, just to ask if you can speak on that, or if those things resonate, or because those are the things that jumped out to me. There's so much connectivity between all these different experiences that bring us together diasporically.
Most definitely. I can only quote Luke, first word, freedom, as one aims to be free. It's his first line. That's right now, it doesn't feel like we're as free as we are. If you believe we are, obviously we are as free, but with the constraints, with the lockdown, with Windrush, because this was something, one of the conversation Kane with his grandfather was, they never really felt like they were free to go and do whatever they needed to do, whatever they wanted to do. Still felt like they had to work X amount of jobs in order then to be able to pay X amount of bills. So there wasn't that element of freedom that attached to it. In the same breath as everything that's happened around Grenfell, hearing it from the Welsh side, and then accidentally seeing it for myself at the same time. It was left there. I could not believe. I was in a taxi my ex-partner, and we were looking for we were looking for somewhere to eat in an Uber, sorry, taxi, same thing anyway. But I seen it in my rear view. I could not believe that it was just there. Once again, it didn't feel like we were free from that thought, because every single time we've seen it, it's a reminder. It's revisiting those emotions, revisiting what's happened without us being free of it. So of course, and that's why I try to echo through. Hopefully I echoed through the film, is we are aiming to be free, and there's so much around us. There's a lot of constraints around us that try to barricade, because they can only try, they can never succeed. And that's what we've got to carry on believing, is they will not succeed in terms of barricading us to be free. The city life, seeing the city, as he's walking around, as Jordan's walking around, he's in awe of everything that's going on, but it doesn't stop him from getting what he needs, going where he needs to go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't block, it doesn't constrain him, doesn't constrain his mind. And then obviously, as we approached the.
I was thinking about the final shot.
Mm-hmm.
And just to quote what's on the wall in the mural, they sold us a dream, we left paradise for this.
Yes, because he's looking for it, looking for that paradise, and that's why everything around us, like, this is not paradise. The gravel that we're walking on, this rain. What is going on? Is this the promise? Is this our so-called promise? And we had to leave. We had to leave our family, our love, our parts of our souls behind in order to be here.
I mean, we'll get into some questions around the technical side of things as we move on. T, it's really good to see you, man. Thank you for being so patient.
Thank you.
I've tried to make sure that the questions are kind of circulate. It's first off, it's really good to see you, man. It's been ages. What's good? What's going on?
Good, everything's all right, man. Just kind of trying to make do in it. We're within the and everything. Yeah.
Before we go into anything else, can we talk about the teaser reels for Us Versus Them, and kind of the context of what the story's about. The first teaser's awesome, and for me, thinking about the first conversation we had and talking about narrative filmmaking and a very sort of cinematic approach to narrative fiction, the sequence in the kind of in the meeting in the hall, the shot construction of the drama is just fantastic, and the performances, the casting's really cool. So like for me, from our first conversation, to see that first snapshot of drama, I was immediately like that. So the first question is kind of, what's the story, without giving too much away, around Us Versus Them, and then I really want to kind of like tap into your brain around casting, the location, your actors, and kind of shot construction, because the first thing that struck me is just as we know with like classical Hollywood cinema and classic fiction narrative directing and editing, is the real art, the greatest compliment of the art form is it's seamless. You're completely, unless you're like a film critic, you're completely unaware of what's going on, and you're engaged with your cast, and you're engaged with the action that's taking place. And it really is like a seamless bit of drama, direction, and production. It's so cool.
I really appreciate that. Us Versus Them, I think, in a nutshell, the story in itself is what we are kind of going through nowadays with the times that we're living in. The crazy thing is with that project, prior to everything that's going on around the world right now with Black Lives Matter, we've actually shot that project, I think it was 8 months prior to it. In August 2019 is when we first started it off. And we shot the first scene a couple of months down the line, it was supposed to be one scene only, a teaser type of thing. I was contemplating of doing it into a feature film originally, or maybe a series, like an episode type of thing. And after the first one, we thought, you know, we might as well make it into a web series, right? So we decided to do is make it a 5-episode web series. And the layout of the episodes were not going to be in a very linear way. Everything was actually the story. The first episode was originally the last episode of the miniseries. So
I got a sense of that from the 2 teaser clips, and immediately in that kind of, you know, in the spirit of kind of a thriller, or a story that's kind of a puzzle that revolves around something tragic. It had me hooked. I was hooked. Like that.
I'm really glad. So the whole thing, realistically speaking, I with that first scene that you see within that circle where people are talking in that kind of like a therapy type of session, group therapy type of thing, that actually kind of takes place 12 years down the line, right? It's way past in the future, and you'll see an individual that kind of shows up now. I think you watching it, you'll see one person that comes down and he's in a really dark place. And then as he kind of, I don't know, he ends up trying to throw a little tantrum, right? And he tries to walk off and you hear a certain name. And the main thing for us, to be fair, I kind of had a feeling that people were going to feel some type of way, kind of like maybe get a bit confused, right? But hoping with that type of ending, with that type of cliffhanger, that people were going to think, oh, okay, I want to see what's next. I really want to know what's going on next. And with the last episode, we were going to find out
how it unfolds. I mean, that first teaser, it does that. You succeeded in kind of like capturing your audience, because immediately as you start to piece things together, and also it's the strength of your casting. Can you tell us about the 2 actors, because it really is around, and obviously I don't want to give too much away, because it's I'm now making sense of it in my head. I'm thinking, I don't want to say anything because I figured it out. But if you could talk to us about the kind of the 2 leads in that scene.
So the crazy thing is
the young woman that's leading the therapy session, and the guy that comes into that circle, and he's really like
So to be fair, with the male himself, he is a friend of mine, and him and another one of my mates that actually run a production company in Birmingham. So his name is Dave. They run a production company called Smooth Demon Productions, and they're actually in the middle of doing a series now. I think after 7 years, which is amazing. They're about to release their trailer. After 7 years, they've been filming it for 7 years. But with him, I think it was a no-brainer. I've seen him act before, and I asked him, hey, listen, we've never worked together. Do you want to jump on this? And he's like, sure, why not? Let's make it happen. And
it's a really powerful performance. It's really nuanced as well. I mean, it's not just in the delivery of his lines, because also that kind of sucks you in. But it's his body language.
Yeah, he's amazing. He is amazing. And with the girl herself, she's actually not an actress. She's never acted in her whole life before.
Really? You're kidding me.
She's an actor.
Brilliant.
So for her, to be fair, I'll be honest with you, I think one of the things I was really trying to do is here's the thing. I think a lot of the times nowadays what's going on, especially when it comes to stories where individuals are wearing headscarves and stuff, I think they're not really portrayed in the most positive light. I think we had that new film that came out, Rocks, and you've got that young girl that's wearing the scarf, and you know, she's just another human being, right? The scarf doesn't it doesn't say that she has to live a certain way. I think nowadays with a lot of narrative stuff that's out there, any female that's wearing a scarf or that's a Muslim, for some reason that is always portrayed as this individual is their religion is holding them back, or they're always trying to escape their religion, you know, one of them ones. So I really wanted to put a Black female Muslim in a very positive light, in a very powerful position. Let her be this doctor, right? Like proper representation. And I felt like that's kind of lacking a lot in the industry right now. And I don't know a lot of actors that do that, that do wear a headscarf. I don't know a lot of females that are wearing a headscarf that are in the acting industry, and that's just due to me that there's quite a few out there, right? But in my immediate circle, I don't know that many. So you know, I thought I'd ask this one, and she's like, yeah, why not? So she came down from London, actually. She was really nervous herself. She'd never slept the night before. And it was just telling her, hey, listen, you've got this. Like, it's going to be a piece of cake for you. And she was really nervous, but she killed it. I was really happy with the way that it turned out. She was really happy with the way that it turned out. But to be fair, that whole first episode that you see that we released, that was actually not the first thing that we shot. We shot an entirely different scene. The last scene is actually what we shot first. And that scene just kind of came out of nowhere. And the crazy thing is, I made a couple of phone calls, called a couple of friends, and people came through. So what you'll see in that circle, there's actually film directors that are making their debut appearance, right? Sitting there in that circle. They're not saying nothing, right? But they're on camera, you see them. And yeah.
I mean, I genuinely thought everybody in that room had like long track records of acting.
They did, to be fair, even from.
And I've got to say that young woman is just outstanding. She's so charismatic.
No, she is amazing.
Like she just carries the scene.
100%.
And those two guys working off of each other. Yeah.
No, they were really amazing. I think even from the DOP's perspective, because one of the things I really wanted to do with this little web series that I wanted to do, I wanted to work with different type of people, not the usual crews that I tend to work with. So my intentions originally were to explore, right? It wasn't, yes, as much as it was about the story, it was about, okay, what other talent do we have in the city? Because, sometimes when you do work in a certain environment, it's very easy to get stuck with a certain group of people that you're constantly working with, certain group of actors that you're constantly using and stuff like that. And I wanted to explore different type of people. I wanted to work with more people. I wanted to widen my network. So with this is where the whole thing came in with, like, with the DOP, I was supposed to work with a couple of different DOPs over the web series. Normally I am my own DOP, right? Yeah. But for this, it was a really good experience because it kind of gave me just, where I could just focus on directing, just kind of direct these actors. And it was more of a challenge to myself as a filmmaker. I think that this is why I was adamant on using that girl as well, like for that specific scene. How well can I direct a person that's never acted before, right? And if you liked it, I mean, at least something.
I could feel that in the shot construction. I mean, I don't want to go too heavy into it, but I was just wondering about how many takes, because one of the great moments, I think, is watching the DOP and director.
Yeah.
That feeling where you've got two great performers on the screen, and you can kind of just let the camera breathe.
100%.
Because you're not focusing on, and I could feel that in the shot construction, because the camera is allowed to kind of linger and sort of move and travel around these two really charismatic individuals.
Yeah. Now, the main thing for me is, luckily for me, because I've worked with this individual on that previous episode, the first one that we ever done. This was the same DOP that done it. So he already knew the type of things that I was kind of looking for. I think the main important thing is when you're working with DOPs and you're working with a certain crew, is that can this individual bring your vision to life, and how do you get that across to this individual, right? And he knew straight after the first one, he knew what I was looking for. He knew the type of grade that I wanted to go with. He knew the mood that I had to go with. It wasn't like where it was constantly, oh no, we have to redo this, It was more like, hey, listen, so these are the type of things I'm looking for. This is the amount of different angles that I'm looking for. Do your thing, right? And he's like, yeah, fair, no problem, let's make it happen. Right?
I mean, in that sense, I'm hoping that's, that allowed you to focus more on the direction.
100%.
And that really comes across.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that the importance of trusting your crew is a massive thing that I sincerely believe in, and trusting your actors. Like, I never go into a place with the mindset of, oh, you have to act this certain way, because I feel like that kind of takes away from these actors, right? This is what they do for a living. I don't act in front of the camera, right? There's only so much that I can say. If I wanted a certain way, I might as well be in it, right? So, so my main important thing is whenever we go into something, it's always like, hey, listen, so you know your lines, you practice for this, show me what you are envisioning, right? And if there's certain little tweaks that needs to be done, we go over it, we throw out ideas. Like I need, for me personally, the main important thing is that the whole cast, the crew, everyone can actually speak their mind, right? And everyone needs to be, I need people to feel like they can be heard and they're comfortable enough to speak out if there's anything going on. Like the environment in the set is really important to me, because I feel like it's one of them ones that if someone can't be themselves on set, it starts affecting every other.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, T. I think that's like, now more than ever, I think that's one of the most important things for filmmakers to share in these sort of rare moments. We're able to talk about what we do in our craft. Is I would say the directors I've always admired are the ones that have a similar kind of vision and a sense of wanting everyone to be there because they really want to be there.
Yeah.
And that you feel comfortable enough to sort of contribute.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And by doing so, I think you're getting the best out of people.
No, you do, definitely. I think the moment you start showing that the people can be themselves on set, right? I think whether it's your DOP, whether it's your actors, the fact that, let's take actors as an example. If this actor does have the freedom to do what they want to do, they are going to be more happy. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. I think that's one of the things that we constantly, some people can easily.
I think we'd all agree on this as well, right? Which is there's nothing worse than the classic stereotype of the white male auteur director shouting at people through a bullhorn. Is there anything more like terrifying and cringeworthy and horrible than some sort of, you know, it's the classic. You know.
Exactly. The thing is, at the end of the day, listen, like we live in a small city, well, not really small, but Circle is quite small, right?
Yeah, in the creative community, yeah,
very small. And the last thing that you want is for someone to not want to work with you, right? You have to keep in mind, I think the main important things to always to remember is, but we always try and pay people. But if there is a certain passion project and there's no budget for it, then you want to be able to just make a phone call and for people to say, hey, listen, I'm on it. Don't worry about nothing, right? But nobody's going to do that if you're someone miserable to work with, right? So it's that thing in it that, hey, we don't know anything. Like it's not like we know every single thing. Sometimes someone else's opinion, whether it's an actor, whether it's your DOP, whether it's your camera assistant, right? Someone can throw an idea out there, and before you know it, hey, they might have taken that scene to the next level, that level that you kind of weren't able to catch. So it's important to kind of show each other respect on set and offset as well.
I think it's incredibly important, and it links back into what we were talking about earlier. You know, whilst we're pursuing these sort of creative ventures, you know, it's a journey. Everyone's learning, everyone's contributing, and the hope is that each project you're growing together, and you're making new connections and learning, sharing each other's skill sets and ideas, and you know, it's awesome. Josie.
You know what? I've been waiting because so much of what he was saying, I was like, yes. And, you know, I literally was like so close to just butting in. Like, just shut the hell up, Josie, please. It's
exactly the same.
Really, but it's really interesting to hear it from your point of view, because as the performer director over here, I feel like the person, and this is kind of answering a question you were already going to ask me, so sorry, I'm just diving straight back in. But when you were saying about trusting the people that you've casted or whatever, and it's like when I was working with Pierre, we know each other quite well, and there was two parts of this film. There was my performance part, but I've also got another part of it which I haven't released yet because I've been so busy, and actually this knowing this was coming up was motivated me to like, right, let me just get that out like next week or just soon. So that will come, but that was kind of interviews with the artists that were part of the campaign. And I don't know if I should say this or admit this, but so we did all of the filming for that in my garden, and I watched him. So I shut the doors every time he had his setup, every time someone sat on the chair, I like, okay, go. And I told, he knows what I want. He knows how it is. I trust him. He trusts me in it. So I just shut the door and everyone be quiet. So we're all inside. I could see him really working and trying, And as soon as I come out, he literally just sits back and he's like, right, okay, go on then. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, direct me. He's like, no, you got it. He's like, you're fine. I was like, what? Where's your energy? Like, come on. Like, he was just like, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to have to tell you to calm down, if anything. So I don't know. It's just really interesting listening to what you were saying and understanding it from different perspectives. Yeah. And also thinking about, I mean, I'm sorry again, because you were going to ask me the questions, but it's just coming.
No, it's cool. I really wanted to get into this because the film and Pierre, who is lovely.
He is lovely.
I think you might have briefly met Pierre at one of the Cables and Cameras. Onismo, at some point, you must meet Pierre as well, because the like-minded spirits.
Amazing.
I really wanted to ask you about the film's relationship to Rising Arts Agency, some of the other creatives that appear in the film. I'm sure I noticed Lawrence in there, which is just
incredible.
Awesome. Yeah. Could you talk to us about, and also what happened after the film was released? Because in the city, it generated, I mean, if the intention was to stand firm and make a statement, it certainly did for the city, because it generated a huge amount of fiery discourse around the film, around Rising Arts Agency, around the creatives that are involved in the film. Can we kind of get into a little bit of that, you know, as in, like, can you tell us a little bit about Rising Arts Agency, what happened when the film came out, and sort of where you're at with that?
So Rising Arts Agency, first and foremost, I think they describe themselves as, or they're Bristol-based, non-for-profit organisation that supports young creatives in the city, like, and that is exactly what they do. I always refer to them or describe them as a radical arts agency, because they're not afraid to, you know, they're not like breaking down doors, they're busting down doors, you know, and that's my vibe. That's totally my vibe. So, and there is such a strong link to the film and Rising Arts Agency and how the film came about.
Because I was thinking about the visuals at one moment, the billboard.
Yeah, so
that's behind you.
Absolutely, yeah. So then they did a campaign called Whose Future campaign, and they essentially we took over the whole of Bristol City and presented artwork on billboards addressing various issues from racism, and the timing of that was like impeccable, but also around accessibility, the climate crisis, and everything and more. But mine was, I submit 2 pieces to this billboard campaign. One was a beautiful image of me and my Black and brown sisters, and another was some words that I've written addressing the killing of George Floyd, but also every single police brutality that exists like every second in America and in the UK. Wasn't going to release them. Rising Arts Agency approached me and were like, we're doing this campaign, we want you to submit stuff, but at this really tender time, just submit what you have. And I was like, I need to submit these words. So I submitted the words. The whole thing wasn't published, it was just the last 5 lines or whatever. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, because this whole conversation, I'm like so interested. You're describing their films and I'm like, I haven't seen them. You're like making me like really want to see everything, but I don't know if you have. But the last lines were, the blood is on your hands, the blood is on your hands, the blood is on your hands. So, Mr. White Man, what are your plans? Quite punchy, quite direct. So yeah, there was literally like the most amazing amount of amazing artwork across the whole city. It was incredible. Like, actually being able to take up space like that, I've never experienced anything like that before in my life. Like, there was a map and you basically got told where all your locations of your billboards was. And there was one night that me and the girl literally were in the car, like driving around, like, there's one, like, do you know what I mean? Like, coming out, getting photos, like, yeah. And it was just amazing. It was incredible. It was like, yeah, I'll never forget that moment. And the feedback and the response that we got was just incredible for our, you know, the creatives, the artists, and the agency.
I think, Josie, I think you're a part of contemporary Bristol history in that moment. That's a sincerely a big deal. and for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a really amazing moment.
Yeah.
I just remember sort of watching it unfold on various Bristol media platforms and just sort of going,
yeah, it was a lot. It was
really amazing.
It was so impactful, and like for everyone involved and for everyone in the city as well, you know. And I think for people like you as well, it was so amazing to see that.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
for sure. I was just blown away, and conversations with certain friends just going, have you seen this yet? Have you seen what's going on? And how, you know, it really like sparked a lot of discourse and debate and conversations, and really, really important and timely ones.
For sure.
My two final questions for you are,
absolutely.
Are you at UWE at the moment, University of West of England, and kind of what's your role there, very briefly? And I wanted to ask you, as a young Black woman, what does representation mean to you in film and the arts?
Okay, so my role at UE, so it's crazy because first of all, I'm the first of my whole siblings, one of 6, to go to university. So to go to university is big, and it's come full circle. I was approached to be associate, so I studied product design at UE, and I graduated 3 years ago, I think. God, I don't know now. 3 years ago. And I was approached to become associate lecturer for like the first semester of last year, sorry. And I was obviously like, that's incredible. First of all, leading on to the next question so beautifully, representation. The first thing that popped into my head was, if I had a me when I was studying, that would have just changed everything, like literally everything. And the other organisation that I'm a part of, Sky Sunkish Youth, which I think you'd both be really interested in, it's an organisation that essentially educates young Black people, people. The guy who founded that, I met on the course, and he was in the year below me, and he was the only other brown boy. I was the only brown woman, just full stop, in all the years, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And we kind of just got our heads down for the whole time, and the end of year show, we realized that we had the exact, like, all of these, everything was the set, like, do you know what I mean? I was like, but me too, but you too, but me. And it was just beautiful. So then after that kind of afterlife, I've kind of got involved with Sky. So yeah, back to the second question. I don't even know what you asked, but representation is everything, and I'm trying not to swear here, but I grew up in a white middle class area called Bishop Stortford. I was born in North London, but I grew up in Hertfordshire. So you can only imagine the vibe. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've made friends for life, and it could have been worse. But I have not moved through my life with any representation at all, really. My role models are like celebrities or people I've found, or when I moved to Bristol, I think that became that huge. People like Mina Fombo doing what she's doing, Black Girl Convention, that's why I'm involved with that as well. You know, so many people, Zena Khan, who was the woman who founded the race equality initiatives that I worked for after uni. I can't get away from UE. Just yeah. And they did warn me. They were like, you're here now and you'll never leave.
Networks.
Yeah. All I can say about representation is, like, for someone who doesn't understand what it's like not to have representation, it's like, just try and think in your head, moving through your entire life without seeing anyone that looks like you doing anything that you want to do ever. Like, just, you know, just try and imagine that. And white people mainly, but they, you know, if you ask that question, like, I can't. It was like, exactly. So then just let that sink in, I guess. Yeah. So when I left university, I ended up working for the university straight away, which is absolutely not what I had planned after studying 4 years in product design and even get there with so much. But it was because of my understanding of the lack of representation and the structures that existed in the university, and being on the course as the only, you know, and I don't start saying of colour, Black or brown woman on my course. It was just shocking. And again, obviously, like saying I grew up having experienced that, and then you come to uni, it's like, when am I ever? Come on. So I applied for this job. Basically, they created an equity scheme, which was a race equality initiative to support BAME students. I say BAME because I'm very resistant to that category. And yeah, that's just my passion. It just like, and that's just forced me almost onto that route. And again, when you have lived experience of that, and you know how passionate you are, you're like, well, I have to serve that, you know. And through that job, my understanding of the education system and representation and Bristol, and you know how, because you know it as you know it as an experience of living, but when you understand it by figures, and in that sense, it just hits way harder. So yeah, representation is everything. I want to be what I never had, essentially. And that's probably a good short answer to answer that question after that whole...
No, brilliant. Josie, thank you so much for your time and your generosity and patience. Absolutely. Because it's so strange, because, you know, we're not on a stage together, talking together. It's much freer and much easier to be able to do that. And we're kind of constrained by technology. But I just want to say a massive thank you for being a part of this conversation and being with us.
Thank you for inviting me. And I'm sorry that I have to leave. I really will want to hear what you lot have got to say, and also want to work with you, direct with work, I don't know, everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
You too. We will speak soon. Okay, bye.
Oh, that's amazing. So thank you very much to Josie for kind of being able to contribute. I think it's time to kind of wrap things up. And just the final question is just around, it's just for both of you guys, just around like what do kind of regional collaborations mean to you? In other words, like, have you had any experiences of working like outside of the communities that we're in? And number two, even if not, what does the possibility of that mean? Because I think that the great joy of being able to do this is, number one, we've all met each other as creatives. Number two, we're having that conversation and being able to kind of share certain experiences which are similar and different, if that makes sense. I'm just wondering, like, what the notion of sort of regionally sharing ideas, or even possibly in like a COVID-free future, if the potential was there to start exploring working with different crews regionally.
It's the access to strengthening and building your network, net worth, whatever that, because that wasn't the same anyway, because that's something I've learned from attempting university and going on my own path. It was my network, is just having the confidence within your own work and also within yourself, which builds anyway. When you haven't got it, it builds by the application. So going and applying yourself towards working with other people and collaborating with other people and building up your network. That's why the regional collaboration is so vital and so important, because then your whole web, the whole spider web, is massive, is major. And if we can do it now as well, even like with opportunities like this, where we are talking through the digital outlets of the Zooms and the Microsoft Teams and things like that, carry on and build it even more, ready for the time where we can go out and be doing it face to face and be doing it physically then. So I can only say, do it as much as you possibly can do, and find the opportunities in order to do it. Be creative with it too, as much as you can.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that, you know what, we've all started from like from the bottom. That's the reality of it. Like we all, there was a time we were all amateurs, right? And I think it's really important to remember that, because nowadays it gets really easy to sometimes forget that. And you might have a uni student that gets in contact with you, and they live 2-3 hours away, right? And they could be asking, hey, listen, can you jump on this with me? I don't have a budget for it. I've only got expenses, or my expenses are this much, one of them ones. And a lot of the times it's important to remember, hey, we used to be there. right? And these people or kids kind of, these students kind of need our hand at this moment. Like, if we can't support them, right, the way that we got supported when we first started out, then who's going to be there for them, right? Because I remember when I first started out, I don't know if I ever mentioned it, I ended up in this industry by accident, right? And hey, I'm here, which is kind of weird, right? But I've never, like, one of the things that I've really done at the start is that I just reached out to people. My first ever project was that I reached out to a whole YouTuber thing that had like about 300,000 thingy, and I said, hey, let me do a music video for you. And we decided to shoot at night, and I didn't even have a low light lens, right? Permits, I didn't know what a permit was. So, but it's these little things. And even within the city, when I first, or even to the States, not even when I just first started out, I reach out to people and I say, hey, listen, so this is what's going on, you know, I need this. Can I get some help? Can I do this? Can I do that? And a lot of the times, I'm in constant, someone will say, hey, listen, T, come jump on this project, we'll pay you. And I'm like, no, I wanted to jump on it to gain experience. And they're like, oh, no, you should get paid for it. I'm like, well, I don't want the money right now. Let me just get, you know.
I want to soak up the experience, the knowledge,
Exactly. And I think a lot of the times we kind of just get into this bubble where we end up treating this industry and what we do as a 9 to 5. Yes, I get it. At the end of the day, we all got bills to pay. We all got these things to do. But hey, if you can't give 2 hours away to help someone out that's starting out, then that really says a lot about you, you know, one of them ones. And it's really important to remember that, because you might say no today, but in a week, 2, 3, a year from now, you might need someone. Where do we go from there then?
I agree with that, T. I mean, like, I would say on a personal level, it's a combination of graft, isn't it, man? Leading
It is.
Things and taking risks, and sometimes that's really terrifying. But you only learn if you try.
It is 100%.
The other part of it is kindness.
Yeah.
Very fortunate to have people who, through showing a want to be involved and to learn and to do, have seen that energy and decided that they could be sharing enough with their time to kind of take you under their wing. And I, like you said, those moments in life are priceless.
To be fair, you know what, they do make a massive impact on one's career as well. And I can only take personal experience from me, because realistically speaking, narrative filmmaking, I really just got into that in August 2018. That's the day that I got into backing, right? And I got recommended for backing. Like, realistically speaking, getting into this career, I didn't even know what you call a person that does the camera work, right?
So, can you briefly explain what back-in is?
So back-in is a program for BAME filmmakers in Birmingham, created by Daniel Alexander Films and Punch Records. And what they do is every week.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry, Daniel. Yeah, I know Daniel. Go on.
Yeah. Every single year they take on a handful of filmmakers and they run them through the phases. To be fair, they open a lot of doors. I mean, like, open really doors, not the usual, oh, I'm here, you know, one of them was, but actually open doors, give you opportunities, show you how the industry works and what to expect, connect you with the right people in the right places. And to lock it off, they'll give you a certain amount of money and they tell you, hey, go make your short film. They'll support you in every step of the way, every single thing that you need. And it's, you know what, it's that collaborative thing as well. Like, if you want to work with people within, what is it called, within the group, or other filmmakers from the city, and it is something where other filmmakers from the city are really supporting. And by the end of it, your film gets screened to your friends, family, a couple other different outlets and stuff like that. And yeah, that's it. Like, they are killing it. And to be fair, it is one of the greatest things that I've been on. And I think that a lot of what I've achieved today and a lot of my opportunities and stuff has really been down to backing and stuff. Because prior to backing, it was YouTube. You know, one of them was, I knew how to operate a camera and I knew the technical side of things, but hey, tell me how to frame it, no clue. And these are the stuff that I learned from backing. And I think getting into backing and running through the phases for them 9 months, it really taught me Like it really showed me where I wanted to take my career. I knew the steps that I had to make. I knew, okay, yeah, am I going to take this route? Am I going to take that route? Or do I have to kind of pave my own way? And then at the same time, I knew there was a group of people. Remember the people that I was on the course with, including Punch Records, including Daniel Alexander Films. Like we are one big family. We still in the same group today, and stuff still gets dropped in there. You know, one of them ones, opportunities still gets dropped in there. If there's anything going on, there's always that support, and it's something that's continuous. It's not just for 9 months. So I think they really hit on the head with it. And every single person, we are in a place now where we're like, hey, yeah, I want to be a filmmaker. This is where I want to get to, and this is how I get to it, thanks to backing. So yeah.
I mean, this is a really good. I think this is a really good place to sort of wrap, because the one thing that really clearly strikes me, that's very apparent about everyone's experiences, is that community is really important. And I think the three of you guys, including myself, have had really similar experiences, which are around that connectivity of people within your region and community who are able to kind of enable a platform, open up a platform for, you know, creativity to blossom, so to speak. So I mean, like, what I'm thinking is something very organic about it, I think. So looking at the spaces that we're from, and then thinking about how the creative cultures of the communities that we are from have helped us proceed to where we happen to be right now in our lives and careers. I kind of like, I think the question for the bridge, because that's kind of what we're talking about. This is a bridge of all of our different experiences. My question is sort of, I wonder what next. I wonder how we can make those different pyramids, as Onismo said earlier, or circles, kind of connect. And I think that's what Gary's trying to do with this project and set of conversations. So yeah, I want to thank you both, and thank Josie as well for contributing to this conversation for the bridge. And I think we're all probably quite tired, but you know what, in the best possible way, because there's nothing better than that kind of like, and I don't think it's cheesy. There is like a joyous thing about being able to talk to like-minded human beings about what our passion, the thing that drives us forward and keeps us doing what we're doing. So I want to say a big thank you to you both, and a big thank you to Claire and Tom. Tom's behind the scenes right now. Thank you very much, Tom. So that's Cinema at Chapter Cardiff and Chapter Movie Maker as well. And a very special thank you to Film Cymru and Gary Thompson of Cables and Cameras, and obviously to all the filmmakers who submitted work for this program, and everyone that is kind of behind and in front of the camera for your glorious projects as well. So thank you, everybody, very, very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And stay in contact, guys.
Yeah, I mean, like when the video ends, I mean, I want to catch up with you guys as soon as we can, you know.
Yeah.
And I think now is the time to build, and I think the spirit of this regional conversation is to do that, so we can kind of open up the conversation. I'm hoping some of the people watching this will, if they're like-minded spirits, can kind of like jump on board, and we can open up this conversation. Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you to the team as well. I feel quite inspired. This is great because I needed a little bit of a push as well, so it's fantastic.